Returning now to our top story, the search for the missing Titanic tourist submersible in the North Atlantic and the race against time to find the 5 people on board. For further insight, I'm joined by Titanic expert and author Tim Malton from London. Tim, thank you so much for doing this. I want to start with your reaction to all of this. What's running through your mind now into the 3rd day since the submersible made contact?
Well, we're all hoping and praying that a miracle will happen and that, in fact, these poor people will be found safe and well before they run out of oxygen. However, it does seem that unless the submersible has made it to the surface, where it could just about in daylight hours be spotted fortuitously by a helicopter, search helicopter passing overhead, if that happens, then there's a chance. But if they're down on the seabed, possibly snagged in a fishing net or something that's got caught in the wreckage, then I really don't know that there are any other submarines that can go down that deep that have the capability to recover the submarine with the stricken people on board.
Right, and you haven't been to the Titanic yourself, but as an expert on the wreckage, can you give us an idea of what kind of conditions people would face at those depths?
Well, I mean, the first thing to say is that it's 400 times the pressure of the atmosphere, which is absolutely astronomically high. It takes 2.5 hours to descend slowly down to the seabed. When you land, it's kind of soft mud. It's also pitch black. And it's freezing cold down there. So you're relying on your batteries for light and also to light the wreckage that you're looking at, or even the seabed. And you're relying on the electricity to keep you slightly warm as well.
What are some of the biggest challenges around trying to mount a rescue operation?
Well, the first thing is that the Titanic sank, even by the standards of 1912, when she sank 111 years ago, she sank in the middle of nowhere. So she's a long, long way from land. She's in a very deep part of the ocean that's 2.5 miles down. And obviously, there's a lot of bad weather and things around there that they've had recently. So it's not just like finding a needle in a haystack. You've also got to think that radar doesn't work at depth, so you've only got sonar. So really, it's a very, very difficult rescue.
Our understanding is that it takes about 2.5 hours for this OceanGate submersible to get down to the Titanic, but communication loss was reported about 1.5 hours into the journey. What do you make of that?
Yes, that is slightly odd, but I was speaking to a gentleman earlier today who actually had been on the previous OceanGate expedition. And worryingly, he said that it was not infrequent for communication to be lost from time to time between the submersible and what I'm calling the mothership, as it were. So it does seem that this technology was a little bit shaky.
I want to ask you about this. The New York Times is reporting that back in 2018, a letter was written to OceanGate warning of possible, quote, catastrophic problems with the submersible's development and its planned mission to the Titanic wreckage. How safe do you think this exploration is?
Well, I think the answer to that is it's not as safe as we all thought and hoped it would be. I mean, we've all done things like, I don't know, bungee jumping or whatever it is, when one has to sign one's life away. So one's kind of used to signing these waivers. But in fact, I'm sure that when the father and the 19-year-old boy who is, or young man, I should say, who is on the submersible, I'm sure when they signed their waivers, I'm sure they thought that they were coming back.
Right, that is Titanic expert and author Tim Malton. Tim, thank you very much for your insight.
My pleasure.